Everard Walker at the hands of Hartford police. Everard's family made the difficult and responsible decision to call for medical assistance. They called 211. They did not call 911 because they did not trust police to handle this situation. Nor did they think police should be involved in a mental health situation. Mr. Walker was neither a threat to himself nor to the community. He needed help. As you heard, he was in a mental rut. In early autumn, someone gave him a laced cigarette. He was involuntarily hospitalized and missed the death and funeral of his beloved Marissa, who died of a pineoblastoma. Marissa was the stepdaughter he raised. This hurt him more to miss the funeral. He was withdrawn, and from the drug-induced psychosis, he needed medicine to eat and sleep. He had run out and he was not taking his medication. After many family conferences, as a last resort, Mr. Walker's family agreed to ask paramedics for help. His son, Jardine, made the difficult call with help from a family friend.
That's a tough move.
Mr. Jardine Walker's act of calling calling 211 is an act that he will live with. He will regret and feel guilt with over forever. It wasn't his fault. The Walker family knew this situation needed compassion and care. This was not a crisis. Jardine called 211 because he didn't want anyone with guns coming near his father. Jardine repeatedly told 211 his father was not in a crisis, that his father was neither a danger to himself nor others. Everard needed health care, not state violence. Everard's mother, Isilda, and Linda Gray hoped that when the family called for paramedics, they would find relief. The state of Connecticut spent $5 million on the Heart Mental Health Crisis Response Team in Hartford and other improvements to 211 to prevent this exact thing from happening. The Hartford police escalated a minor mental health call into a fatal encounter that they ended in a barrage of bullets. We cannot pretend there is some mystery about how another homicide by a police officer of a black man happened. We are here to say no more. A system that responds like this to a family's call for medical intervention reveals its deep flaws. This system failed the officers involved too. This was an incorrect response born of insufficient training and a focus on shoot first and ask questions later. When the only tool you have is a gun, everything is a target. There was no taser. There was no use of non-lethal force. There was no discussion of non-lethal force. The Walkers have said the name of Tamir Rice before. They've said the name of Philando Castile. They've said the name of Michael Brown, of Eric Garner, and Zinga Walker, when police were holding her on the ground before they shot her father in front of her, told police, "I can't breathe." Where have we heard those words before? The Walker family has said the name of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, and now we add Everard Walker's name to that terrible list. The Walkers knew they did not want police because history shows how police deal with black Americans in mental health crisis. And this wasn't even a crisis. 2 officers on backup duty helping a mental health 211 call devolved into a full-scale paramilitary invasions of Everett's tiny apartment on Capitol Ave. There was no warrant, there was no threat, there was no need for this response. The fact that the Hartford Police Department has not publicly stated that any of the officers who escalated this mental health call to what the family feels is murder, that none of these officers have been placed on administrative leave or desk duty, demonstrates that we cannot trust the police to police themselves. The Walker family is hesitant to rely on the Office of the Inspector General. The initial report has published only the most inflammatory images from that incident. Mr. Walker was defending his home against an unwarranted invasion by 11 officers with a 4-inch ratchet, a Jamaican pocket knife that every Jamaican man carries. The OIG, we hope, is not tipping its hand towards exoneration to officers. when it does this. The OIG's initial report is troubling as well because it focuses on the last 20 seconds of an interaction that lasted more than an hour. The OIG's initial report did not refer to Nzinga's pleas for the police to leave the scene. Jardine asked police to leave. Upon this refusal, police should have left. They never should have been there at all, because this was not a criminal interaction. There was nothing criminal about this situation. As Nzinga watched more police officers arrive and walk up the stairs to her father's apartment, she warned them that this will not turn out well. Why did police ignore her? Why did they deny the family's pleas to go away? We are here again to say no more. We are also here to invite the city of Hartford to reach out to us within the next 30 days to discuss resolution of this situation. If not, BBB attorneys and myself will file suit as soon as possible, focusing on claims under the Police Accountability Act. There is no excuse for a mental health call that ends in this kind of violence. I have litigated enough against police to know what the city of Hartford is going to do when I file a claim. The city will hire lawyers to defend the officers, and we will spend the next 6 years litigating the question of whether or not this was an appropriate response. The fact that the city will drag this out is in and of itself additional ongoing injury to the family. How long will they make the family suffer through this intergenerational trauma that will reverberate across our community for decades? How much will the city make this family suffer additionally? How much should this family have to bear? How much will this litigation strain the bonds of this family? This shooting is already straining the bonds of this family. When we finally get to the jury, we will ask them to decide how much the life of this beloved father is worth. But we all know that there is no amount of money that can make this family whole. There is no amount of money that will bring Everard back. There is no amount of money that will give Jardine peace at night. He saw his father murdered. There is no amount of money that will give Nzinga and Linda peace at night. They watched this shooting happen. This homicide was unnecessary and preventable. This case is about healing a community. This case is about building a new future where public health does not mandate an arsenal. We want to build a new community where those in pain and anguish and pleading for help with their mental health do not end up in the office of the chief medical examiner being dissected to measure bullet wounds of entry angles. I'll take any questions. They understood very early on that when police even showed up, that there was terrible, it portended terrible things. That's why Nzinga begged police to leave. Jardine begged police to leave. And they didn't.
I seem to remember Miss Linda saying that other people in the apartment were shot at. Are you able to elaborate on that?
Well,
He was in there.
they were, Jardine was very close. Jardine was almost holding his father at one point. And Nzinga was on the ground. Jardine has told me that he could feel the recoil from the bullet. So this was not only an unnecessary use of force, but it endangered other people.
Ken, under the Police Accountability Act, what segments are you going to file suit based on?
Well, the Police Accountability Act contains a clause that opens up the Connecticut Constitution to private rights of action. Because federal litigation is so hamstrung by qualified immunity and the invented doctrine by the United States Supreme Court that qualified immunity protects all officers only in cases where a reasonable officer would not act this way. It's an impossible standard. So what Senator Winfield and the members of the Judiciary Committee and the entire Connecticut General Assembly and Governor Lamont did during the pandemic year of 2020 is open up the Connecticut Constitution to private causes of action with a lesser definition of qualified immunity so that we have a better chance of exonerating Everard Walker and vindicating his civil rights under the Connecticut Constitution. Everard Walker at the hands of Hartford police. Everard's family made the difficult and responsible decision to call for medical